Vlahovic, Adzic, and especially Savona, the three of them are back for the game against Bologna. Tomorrow, important game, we'll go towards the words of Thiago Motta in press conference, but then Scanavino, because when he said yesterday, saremo sempre la Juve, will always be Juve, well, I tell you guys, I needed these words. From the AD of Juventus, saremo sempre la Juve, will always be Juventus. I loved the words of yesterday in his interview. We'll go toward them, but also it was something that I didn't really appreciate, or I wanted a bit more. Club World Cup, we'll speak about that as well. Put a maximum of like if you didn't yet. Please continue to subscribe to the channel, ragazzi. Dai, 35 is the target. We are at 205, I think, of the objective before the end of the year. I'm counting on you. Maximum of like, subscribe to the channel, because now we start. Sempre più Juve. It will always be and always be more Juve. We want to be the club in Italy that has the biggest budget to spend on the market. Ragazzi, I needed it. Look, it's true that Juventini are always asking me, Beppe, sustainability, the word sustainability. We understand, but we are starting to be a mediocre team, a team that is not able to reinforce themselves, to spend money. How long will it take? Beppe, will we one day come back? And I always reassure you, or I try to reassure you, telling you, Juventus is Juventus. There are these cycles that we already experienced in our history, but Juventus, they have one ability, one skill to always bounce back and coming stronger. We always showed it. Sometimes we need to be a bit more patient than others, but I needed also to hear it from Scanavino, from someone. And it's important, because when Scanavino is speaking, it's not just a random speech, he's going in front of microphone. No. These words, especially when he goes to an Italian radio, an important one, are matching with the words, the idea, the philosophy of John Elkann. Why? Because Scanavino, we know it, not only at Juve, but also since years in Exor, has always been the right hand of John Elkann. But there were, of course, something that I didn't appreciate, or a bit less, and we'll go toward that in a second. First of all, I wanted to go towards yesterday Napoli that went out. Why? Because we are approaching Serie A. We start again today. Napoli, they went out. 3-1 loss against Lazio. Will tell me, Beppe, Lazio is super informed. Yes, but on the other side, when you're seeing and watching the starting 11 of Antonio Conte yesterday, you understand. You understood that he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He knows that he's weak in managing multiple competition. Accepting Napoli, he knew there was no European competition, which is extremely important for him to start a process. And yesterday he threw away that Coppa Italia, like he threw away, for example, the final of Europa League of a few years ago, in that semi-final that we lost against Benfica, because he wanted to go for the record points in Serie A that he reached, but we couldn't play that final in our home in the Allianz Stadium. For the people that are complaining that Antonio Conte is not there, I understand perfectly. I will never blame you, because Antonio Conte showed what he was able to do at Juve. He did it at Inter. He did it at Chelsea. He couldn't do it at Tottenham. We know why. By the way, yesterday they lost 1-0 with the goal of Dean Huijsen, youngest ever scorer of Bournemouth in Premier League. But on the other side, I would have been curious to understand what the Conte lovers would say if he would have thrown away the Champions League, thrown away the Coppa Italia in the first round immediately, thrown away the Supercoppa because he didn't want to play a second game, for example, thrown away maybe that Club World Cup in the summer, just to focus on the Scudetto with no guarantee that you will win it. Pay attention to Atalanta, pay attention to Inter, they're a really serious candidate, hoping, of course, that Juventus can come back. I'm telling you that big, huge intro. Why? Because today we start again with Serie A. Big games at 6:30 p.m. Inter against Parma. 8:45 p.m. Italian time, Atalanta-Milan. Pay attention for the people that are living in UK, that are living in Ireland. The broadcaster, they are not transmitting this game. It's a huge pity. But luckily, OneFootball, they partner up with Serie A, giving you the opportunity to watch this game. You know it. I'm already repeating it since a few times. The link is into the description of OneFootball. You can pick the game that you want, starting at $4.99. It's nothing. You can go with either Parma or Atalanta-Milan. Or you can go with a season pass, Juventus, but of course then you will miss Inter, Parma, or Atalanta, Milan. Or you go simply, easy, and then we don't speak about it anymore. With a season pass, all the games in your phone or your computer, or you go on the smart TV with the application OneFootball. The link is into the description. Do it now for people living in UK and Ireland, because now we enter the words of Scanavino. We'll try to go as fast as possible to the important words. Some that I loved, some things that I didn't like. When he says, look, we want to be the club in Italy with the biggest spending power on the sporting mercato, I love it. Then he says, of course, obviously, we need to pay attention because spending is good, but you need to spend well. You need to have a bit of luck as well in spending from the right names on the mercato. Maybe he's also referring to some choices that we made this summer, that we are still expecting them to show up. A Koopmeiners, a Douglas Luiz, some injuries, I understand them. And then, of course, winning games. Because winning games, at the end, is the essential of it, of the mercato. You don't do mercato just to do mercato. You do them to win competitions. And how do you win competition? By winning some games. And of course, also there you need a bit of luck. But our strategy is not a strategy in decreasing phase. And that's the answer that I believe a lot of Juventini, including myself, wanted to hear. He says, look, if we are analyzing what we are doing in our progression, we see that we are already on the right path. 50% of our debts are already gone and we worked on it, and that's already a great thing, especially if we analyze that in the past, the management of that big loss of money is not only coming from, or it's not really coming from the way that we handle players, etc., but especially coming from off-the-field topics, like, for example, not participating to the Champions League of last year, and some mistakes here and there linked to the old management that we are actually trying to work on to cancel them as fast as possible. So also there, speaking of the field was important for me, still keeping a beautiful mix between sustainability and being competitive. Important for me to hear multiple times the word being competitive, being competitive, being competitive. Then he says, pay attention, being competitive, sustainability. We want to go for good players. We also want to go back to be able to buy and sign champions. But pay attention, because we are living in a football world today that created a really crazy gap in terms of revenue. Look at Premier League, for example. Look at some clubs from some leagues that are there and created a revenue gap that is really difficult to close in a few months, in a few years. So you need to be really good. And then it's not always that you go and sign a player, for example, and that this player will work immediately. Look, we are speaking about a team sport. And an individual, how strong, how good he can be, not always he can work into that team. Not always he can perform into that team. I give you personally an example. Kylian Mbappé, is there someone, honestly, except of trolls, etc., that can tell me that Kylian Mbappé is a bad player? Absolutely not. He's a phenomenon. He's a strong player. I follow him since he's a kid. He's an incredible individual. He's not working at Real. At the moment, on the 5th of December, yesterday, he was not working at Real Madrid. The voices there are speaking about a locker room that is not happy. He is not happy. He doesn't find his position on the field. He doesn't find his position, especially in the locker room. So not always going and signing the random big names on the market are synonymous of it will work. Pay attention to that beautiful example, I think. Then he spoke about Juventus Creator Lab that brought us also to reach and being the club in Italy with the biggest follow across all platforms, 200 million followers. Huge, huh, guys? And that brings us more opportunities of partnerships, of sponsors. And then it was like, yeah, Beppe, beautiful, beautiful. But at the moment on our shirt, we have Save the Children. We don't have a sponsor that is bringing us money. And you are correct. Then he answered that question as well, because it's an important one. He said, we could have chosen one fast, but we didn't want. We didn't want to. We have huge, big confidence to find one before the end of the season. One that we believe in. On long term as well. Not only short term just because we need a sponsor. So what I was telling you is also there. In the words of Scanavino. And then I close with the words that I didn't really appreciate of yesterday. Because he spoke about that World Cup for club. Saying we have budgeted, forecasted some money. Hopefully they can positively surprise us. Good. It's a huge one in terms of visibility, and I totally agree with him. But then he goes with, it will also be an important one for our players to gain some experience in that kind of tournament, playing against other realities, being exposed, etc., etc. Look, he's totally correct when he's saying it. But that's where I miss that sporting part, where I miss that winning part, where I miss a bit of, we go there not only to be there, not only to do a parade, to have experience, but also to try to win it. That's where I miss something. Okay, Scanavino is not really taking part of the sporting side. I understand that. Ragazzi, die. That's what I missed yesterday from Scanavino, a bit of die, let's win. Okay, these were the words of Scanavino. I need to go to the press conference of Thiago Motta, 10 minutes, so perfect. He spoke about Dusan Vlahovic, that will be there. He didn't say that he will start the game, yes or no, but he will be there. He said it's important for him, for a player, to be happy to do what he loves to do. Playing games, playing football. Not only him, but also Adzic. Well, these two players, we knew that they would be called up, but also the fact that we recuperate Savona is a huge one. What about the other ones? Well, not yet. Focus on Bologna, and then we will see. So Weston will not be there, Douglas Luiz not, and the other ones, we know that they will need a bit more time. Some of them the entire season, like Bremer or Cabal. What else did he said? He spoke about the fact that at Juventus, the difference with Bologna is not about pressure or not, it's responsibility. Responsibility, he was feeling it at Bologna, he's feeling it at Juve, even if the objectives are different. But that responsibility, not only during the games to win the games, but also every single day. Every single day, from the morning to the evening, being at Juve is a responsibility. So beautiful words there from Thiago. He spoke about the fact that he called up also young players. Again, 4. 2 of them are not called up, Papadopoulos and Montero, that are back with their respective team, Next Gen and Primavera. Instead of that, we called up Nicolo Rizzo, that is a center back. You see, it's not that we are calling up a lot of forward players, offensive player, creative player, which also give us a bit an understanding about how Giuntoli will go on the market going for center backs. Antonio Silva is a name that is there today. I don't speak a lot about Mercato. So we have Diego Pugno forward, the one that made actually his official debut, that will be there. Filippo Pagnucco left back, and Augusto Owusu, that is a defending midfielder that recently, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, Mirko Di Natale was also speaking about a possible extension of the contract of Augusto. He also answered a question about why are we not scoring? And he didn't want to speak only about the offensive phase. Actually, he didn't really want to answer that question, honestly, because he spoke more about the fact that we didn't win the last games. That is more important for him, that we score, we didn't win. In the games that we played, some phases were good, some phases were not good. That's what he said. But we must do everything. Not only the offensive phase and focusing on that, not only the defensive phase, but we need to do everything, and we need to work as a block to help each other, to do both things really well. So he didn't really want to tackle that one. He didn't really want to answer that question. Then he said, it's not my job to judge myself, to the question, how are you doing? He said, it's your job to judge me, so I'm not paid to judge myself. That was a beautiful answer. Dusan Vlahovic will be there tomorrow. Surprise. Kenan Yildiz could possibly rest to be 100% fit in the game against Manchester City. The last time he went out as well on the game, so looks like Kenan could use a bit of rest in the game of tomorrow. Wea could play on the left with Conceição on the right, with Dusan Vlahovic up front, even if later today we will know a bit more about the predicted lineup. So pay attention to that. Finishing with Club World Cup. Yesterday, we know it. We were following the draw here live on the channel. Look, I can't wait for that competition. It's far away, huh? It's really far away. I can't wait for that competition to be played. Yesterday, we discovered that we will be in Group G, the GJustjuve group, with Manchester City, with that from Morocco, and Al Ain from the Emirates. Beautiful competition. Of course, people are already thinking about, but then Beppe, we will finish second and we will play against Real Madrid, that is in Group H, because they will finish first. Look, this is something that we Juventini, of course, we need to be realistic. Of course, at the moment, honestly, Manchester City is a superpower, even if they have a bit of difficulties. But we need to also, as Tifosi, to start stopping. We will be second. Why? Let's try to think about we will be first, or we will try to be first, which will be important. That competition, guys, will have a huge, big impact on a lot of things that I will reveal you in other videos about Calcio Mercato, about the rules there, about who to play, who not to play. Just to tell you that there is one rule that has been written: the clubs are obliged to play with their best 11 in that competition. We'll come back on that. Put a maximum of like. Don't forget to subscribe. Grazie, forza, Juve.